I'm asking you, he continued, to give this man the full weight of what the law provides. Don't reduce it because of my name. Don't adjust it because of my years of service. James Calloway served this country. He spent 30 years educating children in this city. And on Veterans Day, my son put him on the ground and drove away. That deserves a real consequence. He paused, and what he said next, I will carry with me until the day I retire. If anything, I'm asking you to be harder on him than you would be otherwise, because he needs to understand that my position has never been his to use. And today is the day he learns that. I have seen a lot in my 40 years on this bench. I have watched the rich walk in like they own the room. I have watched the powerful try to use their title as a shield. But what walked into my courtroom on the morning of November 14th at exactly 10:30 a.m. was something I had never seen before. A 32-year-old man who shoved a 71-year-old Vietnam veteran to the ground in broad daylight and then stood before me, arms crossed, with a smirk on his face that told me he expected to walk right back out. And somewhere in the back of that courtroom, sitting in civilian clothes, was his father, a man with a badge, a reputation, and 35 years of service. And what that father did next made the entire courtroom go completely silent. If you think you know how this ends, trust me, you don't. Hit that subscribe button right now, because this story is going to change the way you think about power, privilege, and what real love actually looks like. The case file in front of me seemed explosive enough on the surface. My clerk had handed it to me that morning with a look I recognized. The look she gets when a case has already made the local news before it reaches my bench. I read it twice before I even put on my robe. State versus Marcus Holt, case number 2024-CR4417. Assault and battery on an elderly person. The defendant was Marcus Holt, age 32. The victim was James Calloway, age 71, a Vietnam veteran, a retired school teacher, a grandfather of 4, a man who had spent 2 tours in the Mekong Delta so that people like Marcus Holt could live in a country where the law is supposed to mean something. Let me tell you about James Calloway before I tell you about what happened that morning in the park. Because in cases like this, it matters who the victim is. Not because some victims deserve more justice than others. Every human being deserves equal protection under the law. But because the full weight of what was done to James Calloway cannot be understood without understanding the life that was risked. James enlisted in 1971 at 18 years old. He served with the 101st Airborne Division, 2 full tours, came home with a Purple Heart and a limp in his left leg that never went away. After the military, he spent 30 years teaching high school history in a public school in the same city where he grew up. He coached baseball on weekends. He volunteered at the Veterans Support Center on Tuesdays. He walked his dog, an old golden retriever named Sergeant, through Riverside Park every single morning at 8:15. That was his routine, his peace, his corner of the world. On November 11th, Veterans Day, Marcus Holt was driving his black Mercedes through the Park Road at over 50 miles per hour in a 15-mile-per-hour zone. Sergeant pulled toward the road. James stepped to the curb and raised his hand, the universal signal. Slow down. Just slow down. Marcus didn't slow down. He stopped. He put the car in park, stepped out onto the pavement, walked straight to James Calloway, and shoved that 71-year-old man so hard he hit the ground and didn't get back up on his own. James suffered a fractured wrist, 2 bruised ribs, and a severe concussion. He spent 3 nights in the hospital. When the paramedics arrived, he was still on the ground, trying to sit up, too proud to stay flat on his back in public. 3 witnesses called 911. All 3 gave the same account. Marcus Holt stood over James on the ground and said, and I want you to hear these exact words, "Next time, old man, keep your hands to yourself. My father runs this city. You have no idea who you just messed with." Then he got back in his Mercedes and drove away. Now, before I tell you what Marcus Holt looked like when he walked into my courtroom, before I tell you what he said when he opened his mouth, and what happened when his arrogance finally met something it couldn't move, I want you to do something. Drop a comment right now and tell me, have you ever witnessed someone use their family's name to escape accountability? Have you ever stood by and watched power protect itself? Tell me, because what you're about to see is the answer to that question, and it's not what you'd expect. And while you're down there, subscribe to this channel. Less than 5% of people watching are subscribed. If you believe that badges should mean responsibility and not immunity, hit that button right now. You are going to want to see what happens next. Marcus Holt walked into my courtroom like the room belonged to him. Expensive charcoal suit, a watch that cost more than most people's monthly salaries. His attorney, a private defense lawyer, who I'd seen maneuver wealthy clients out of tight corners before, walked half a step behind him like a well-trained shadow. The attorney carried a leather portfolio thick enough to suggest his client was prepared to argue everything, dispute everything, and outlast everything through paperwork and procedure. That's the strategy when the facts aren't on your side. Marcus didn't look nervous. He looked inconvenienced. The way someone looks when they've been called into a meeting they didn't want to attend. He glanced around the courtroom with a mild interest, like he was assessing whether any of it was worth his time. He didn't look at James Calloway, not once. James was sitting in the front row of the gallery in his dress clothes. His wrist was still in a brace. His Purple Heart was pinned to his lapel. And Marcus Holt, the man who put him on the ground on Veterans Day, couldn't even look in his direction. That told me everything. I called the case. Marcus stood. His attorney stood beside him. And when I asked Marcus how he pleaded, his attorney jumped in immediately. "Not guilty, Your Honor. We believe the evidence is circumstantial and the witnesses are inconsistent." I looked at Marcus directly. "Mr. Holt, I asked you, do you have a voice?" He looked at me with that smirk still in place. "Not guilty." "Thank you," I said. "Now let's talk about what happened on November 11th. I asked the officer to present the evidence. Officer Patricia Ewan, badge number 2218, walked the court through the timeline with the precision of someone who had done this many times. She presented the 911 call logs, the witness statements, the medical report from the hospital, and then, the moment Marcus's attorney shifted in his seat, she presented the parking lot security footage from the recreational center adjacent to the park. Crystal clear, full color, timestamp on screen. We played it on the courtroom monitor. The entire gallery watched in silence as Marcus Holt's Mercedes appeared on screen, moving at a speed that was visibly absurd for that road. James Calloway raising his hand. Marcus stopping, stepping out, walking directly toward James with his shoulders set and his jaw hard. The shove that sent a 71-year-old man, a decorated veteran with a bad leg, straight to the ground. Marcus standing over him, gesturing, getting back in his car, and leaving. The courtroom was silent for a full 3 seconds after the footage ended. Not the restless silence of boredom, the held breath silence of people who have just watched something they cannot unhear. I looked at Marcus. "Still not guilty, Mr. Holt?" He shrugged, actually shrugged, and said, "He stepped into the road." I reacted. The gallery exhaled. Someone behind me murmured something I chose not to acknowledge. James Calloway sat perfectly still, the way men from that generation sit when they've learned that composure is its own kind of power. I leaned forward. I said, "Mr. Holt, I've been on this bench for 4 decades. I have seen defendants lie with extraordinary creativity. What I just watched on that screen was not a reaction. That was a decision. You put your car in park. You walked toward a 71-year-old man. You made a choice. So I'm going to ask you again. Would you like to reconsider your characterization of what happened on Veterans Day? His attorney put a hand on his arm. Marcus pulled his arm away, and then he said something that made the temperature in the room drop 10 degrees. Your Honor, he said, voice steady and calm, like he was explaining something obvious to someone slow. My father has served this city for 35 years. He's the chief of police. I think it's fair to say I understand law enforcement, and I understand what constitutes an actual threat. That old man was in the road. I protected myself and I moved on. The fact that I'm even here is an embarrassment. The gallery didn't gasp. It went quiet in a way that's louder than gasping. I removed my glasses. Anyone who knows me knows what that means. An embarrassment, I repeated. Mr. Holt, do you know who James Calloway is? He glanced at James for the first time. A single dismissive look. No. I stood up from the bench. I walked down to the front. James Calloway, I said, would you please stand? He stood slowly, with the care of a man who has learned not to trust his joints. He stood straight. He looked at me and waited. Mr. Calloway, I said, would you please tell the court who you are? James Calloway cleared his throat. His voice was quiet, but it carried. My name is James Calloway. I served in the United States Army, 101st Airborne Division, from 1971 to 1973. 2 tours in Vietnam. Purple Heart. I taught history at Jefferson High for 30 years. I have 4 grandchildren. I walk my dog in that park every morning because it's the only hour I have to myself since my wife passed 2 years ago. He paused. And on Veterans Day, I asked a man to slow down near the road because I didn't want my dog to get hit, and he put me on the ground. The courtroom was absolutely still. I turned back to Marcus Holt. Do you understand what you just heard? You shoved a decorated combat veteran, a man who risked his life for this country, a man who spent 3 decades teaching children, a man who was walking his dog on Veterans Day, and you put him on the ground and called it a reaction. I looked at him for a long moment. You are 32 years old. You should be ashamed of yourself. Marcus's smirk finally slipped. His jaw tightened. His attorney was leaning toward him, whispering, but Marcus leaned away from him instead and looked straight at me. Your Honor, he said, my father will be speaking with the district attorney's office about this case. I think you should be aware of that. And there it was. The reason this case ended up on the news. The reason this courtroom is the one you're watching right now. I said, Mr. Holt, are you attempting to tell me that your father's position will influence how I conduct this hearing? He held my gaze. I'm just saying, he knows people. I looked out at the gallery. Chief Holt, I said, would you please come forward? The entire room turned around. In the last row, a man stood up, late 50s, gray at the temples, wearing a plain button-down shirt and slacks. No uniform, no badge. Chief Raymond Holt had been sitting there from the beginning. He'd heard every word his son said. He'd watched the footage. He'd sat through the dismissal of James Calloway's service. And the look on his face when he walked down that center aisle was not anger. It was something worse. It was grief. Marcus turned around slowly. His face went through 3 expressions in about 2 seconds. Confusion, relief, then something close to fear when he read his father's face. Dad, he said, what are you? Chief Holt held up one hand, and Marcus stopped talking immediately. I said, Chief Holt, thank you for being here. I understand this is not easy. I paused. Your son has told this court on multiple occasions that your position and your relationships will influence the outcome of this case. I'd like to give you an opportunity to speak to that directly. Chief Raymond Holt stood at attention. When he spoke, his voice was steady, but I could hear what it was costing him to keep it that way. Your Honor, he said, my son is wrong. He has always been wrong about that. I have spent 35 years serving this city. I have put people in handcuffs who wore the same badge I wear. I have built a career on the idea that no one is above the law, and that includes my family. He stopped. He looked at Marcus. That includes you. Marcus opened his mouth. Marcus. One word. It worked. Chief Holt turned back to me. I watched the footage this morning before I came here, Your Honor. I've read the medical report. I know what my son did to Mr. Calloway, and I am here today not as Chief Holt. I'm here as a father who failed to teach his son the most important lesson I know, that a badge, whether it's mine or the idea of mine, is not a shield from consequences. It's a responsibility to uphold them. His voice cracked on the last sentence. He pulled it back. I'm asking you, he continued, to give this man the full weight of what the law provides. Don't reduce it because of my name. Don't adjust it because of my years of service. James Calloway served this country. He spent 30 years educating children in this city. And on Veterans Day, my son put him on the ground and drove away. That deserves a real consequence. He paused, and what he said next, I will carry with me until the day I retire. If anything, I'm asking you to be harder on him than you would be otherwise, because he needs to understand that my position has never been his to use. And today is the day he learns that. Marcus looked like someone had taken the floor out from under him. He was 32 years old, standing in a courtroom in his expensive suit, and for the first time in his life, the name wasn't going to work. He turned to his father. His voice was very small. Dad, Chief Holt looked at his son. Marcus, be quiet. Listen. I've been on this bench a long time. I have seen 1,000 shades of human nature. But a father standing in open court and asking me to hold his own son fully accountable, that is something I had never seen before. I have seen fathers beg me to go easy. I have seen fathers who shook their heads and walked out of the room. I have seen fathers who didn't come at all, but I had never seen a father walk to the front of a courtroom, look at the damage his son had done, and say, give him everything the law allows. And I want you to understand what it takes to do that. That man loved his son. You could see it in the way his voice cracked on certain words. You could see it in the way he looked at Marcus when Marcus stopped talking. But he loved justice more. He loved James Calloway's right to walk his dog in the park without being put on the ground more. He loved the 35 years he had spent building something honest more than he loved the 10 seconds it would take to let his name do the dirty work. That is what integrity actually costs. I looked at James Calloway still sitting quietly in the front row. Mr. Calloway, I said, do you want to address the court? He stood again. He put his good hand on the rail. Your Honor, he said, I don't want revenge. I want this young man to understand that the people around him, the strangers in the park, the teachers who taught him, the veterans who walk the same streets he drives through, we all deserve to be treated like we're worth something. I came here today because I believe the law still means something, and because I want my grandchildren to live in a world where it does. The room was silent for a long moment after he sat back down. Then I turned to Marcus Holt, and I gave him the sentence. Marcus Holt, I said, on the charge of assault and battery on an elderly person, I find you guilty. Your actions on November 11th were not a reaction, they were a decision. And that decision put a decorated veteran in the hospital for 3 nights. Here is what this court orders. 120 days in the county correctional facility, suspended pending full compliance with the following terms. 200 hours of community service to be completed at the Veterans Support Center, where James Calloway volunteers every Tuesday. You will not sit behind a desk. You will work alongside the veterans there. You will hear their stories. You will carry their equipment. You will assist with whatever they need. You will complete 1 full year of anger management counseling, documented and reviewed by this court. You will write a formal letter of apology to James Calloway, which will be read aloud in this courtroom at your compliance review. And you will speak to the Police Academy's incoming recruit class about privilege, accountability, and what happens when someone believes their family's name puts them above the law. Your father will arrange it. Marcus stared at the floor. I leaned forward one more time. Mr. Holt, I want you to look at me. He looked up. You came into this courtroom this morning thinking a name was going to save you. Your father just proved that names don't save anyone. Service does. Character does. The choices you make when no one's watching, or when everyone's watching, and you do the right thing anyway. Look at your father. That is the kind of man a name is supposed to stand for. Start working on becoming that. As the bailiff moved to process the paperwork, Chief Holt walked across the room to James Calloway. He extended his hand. James looked at it for a moment, just a moment, then shook it. The chief said something I couldn't fully hear from the bench, but James nodded slowly, and I saw just the beginning of something that might, someday, become forgiveness. Not for Marcus, for the situation, for the fact that a good man had to spend Veterans Day on the ground because someone never learned that a name is not a license. Marcus watched his father from across the room. He was crying, not the performance of crying, the kind defendants sometimes produce when they realize the sentence is real. The real kind. The kind that comes from finally understanding something you should have understood a long time ago. He was 32 years old, and for the first time in his life, the scaffolding had come down. The name, the connections, the assumption that consequence was something that happened to other people. All of it was gone, and what was left was just a man who would hurt someone who didn't deserve to be hurt, standing in a courtroom where his father had just chosen justice over him. That is a hard thing to watch. I'm not going to pretend otherwise. I don't enjoy this part of the job. I never have, but I believe in it. I've sat on this bench for 4 decades. I've seen the best and worst of what people are capable of. But what I watched Chief Holt do that morning, stand up in open court in front of his son, in front of cameras, and choose justice over protection, that is the standard. That is what wearing a badge is supposed to mean. 6 months later, Marcus Holt completed his first 100 hours at the Veterans Support Center. His supervisor there, a woman named Carol Devins, who had been running that center for 18 years, filed a report with the court. She wrote that, in the beginning, he showed up with the posture of someone who thought he was better than the room. He stood near the door. He answered questions with as few words as possible. He did the minimum of what was asked and nothing more. By week 4, something shifted. She wasn't sure what caused it. Maybe a specific conversation, maybe just the accumulated weight of being around men who had given everything and received very little in return. But he started staying an extra hour each Tuesday to sit with veterans who had no family visitors. He started arriving early. He started learning names. By month 3, he knew every man in that center, by name, by branch, by the year they served. He remembered who liked their coffee with 2 sugars. He remembered which men needed help with their paperwork, and which men just needed someone to sit quietly beside them. Carol Devins wrote, "I don't know what happened to this young man in a courtroom, but whatever it was, it worked." James Calloway wrote me a letter. He said Marcus came to find him on a Tuesday afternoon. They sat on a bench outside the center. Marcus apologized. Not the lawyer's version, not the performance, the real thing. James said it took Marcus about 15 minutes to get through it because he kept stopping, and James let him stop. And then he told Marcus about Vietnam, about what it feels like to come home to a country that wasn't sure it wanted you back, about learning to find your peace in small things, a morning walk, a good dog, a park you know by heart. James wrote at the end of his letter, "I think that young man is going to be all right. I think his father's choice that day was the best thing that ever happened to him, and I think my dog would have liked him." I will never forget that sentence. I will never forget Chief Holt walking down that center aisle, or James Calloway standing with his brace and his Purple Heart and his quiet voice that carried across a silent room. I will never forget that the law, when it's applied with both firmness and dignity, can do something a prison sentence alone never could. It can change someone. It doesn't always. I want to be honest about that. Not every Marcus Holt becomes the person who stays late to sit with veterans. Some of them leave the courtroom and go right back to who they were. But some of them don't. And that possibility that a single decision, a single moment of real accountability can redirect a life is why I still put this robe on every morning. My father came to this country with nothing. He worked construction. He used to say that the law is the great equalizer, the one place where a man with no money and a man with every advantage in the world stand on the same ground. He believed that. I have spent my career trying to make that true, not just as a principle, but as a practice. And cases like this one remind me that it is possible, that when a father chooses honor over protection, when a veteran stands quietly with a brace on his wrist and speaks with grace instead of anger, when a young man who thought he was untouchable finally sits with the weight of what he did, the law can be what it's supposed to be. That is the lesson here. Not the dramatic moment when Chief Holt walked down that aisle, not the sentence, not even the footage. The lesson is that the most powerful thing in any courtroom is not the gavel. It's character. It's the choice each person makes about who they want to be when the moment comes that actually tests them. James Calloway had that character. He walked in with his brace and his Purple Heart and his quiet dignity, and he told a room full of strangers that he didn't want revenge. He wanted understanding. Chief Raymond Holt had that character. He walked in knowing it would cost him something, and he did it anyway. And Marcus Holt, I believe, is learning it. Late, painfully, but learning it. That is enough. In my experience, that is everything. Thank you for watching this story to the end. If you believe that no one is above the law, not the wealthy, not the connected, not the children of people in power, then hit that like button right now. Subscribe to this channel, because these are the stories that need to be told, that need to be heard, that need to be shared with the people in your life who still believe in accountability. And leave me a comment telling me, what would you have done if you were sitting in that gallery the morning Chief Holt walked down that aisle? What would you have done if Marcus had been your son? Because I genuinely want to know. Justice is not just what happens in a courtroom. It is the choice every one of us makes when someone we love does something wrong, when someone we know uses power they shouldn't have, when we have a chance to stand up or to look away. Choose wisely. Every single time. Choose wisely.
A spoiled 32-year-old walked into court believing his police chief father could save him after he shoved a 71-year-old Vietnam veteran to the ground on Veterans Day. Marcus Holt mocked the case, dismissed the victim, and even hinted that his father's influence would control the outcome. But the entire courtroom froze when Chief Raymond Holt stood up and did the unthinkable. Instead of defending his son, he publicly demanded the judge give him the full punishment allowed by law. As the veteran quietly described the attack that left him hospitalized, Marcus's arrogance began collapsing in real time. The judge sentenced him to work directly with veterans, thinking accountability might teach what privilege never had. Months later, the entitled man who once thought he was untouchable was staying late to help lonely veterans and apologizing with real remorse. In the end, the father's hardest decision became the very thing that saved his son.